microphone.
Opening prayers.
Shall we pray? Almighty God, ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our counsels and actions, so that we may always work in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do all things that will promote the unity, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria. Amen.
Please be seated. Your Excellency, the First Lady, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the President, African First Ladies Peace Mission, the Mother of Peace, Dame Dr. Patience Jonathan, Your Excellency, wife of the Senate President, Mrs. Eileen David Mark, the Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Hajia Zainab Mena, other distinguished members of the High Table, my honorable colleagues, our dear children, all protocols duly observed. It is my pleasure to welcome everybody to the special sitting of the National Children's Parliament to mark the 2014 National Children's Day celebration with the theme Abduction of the Chibok Girls and the General Security Challenge Facing the Nation. It will interest you to note that this activity is going on across the country to mark the Children's Day, and this shows that the publications by some media houses stating that we, members of the National Children's Parliament, vowed to boycott the celebration unless the Chibok girls are released is false in totality. We as a parliament, we are ethically trained to be responsible, and we always abide by our governing principles. So you can agree with me that the press quoted us out of context. I wish to thank the federal government for this platform that they have given to us, the voice bearers of the Nigerian child, to speak for the children, especially in the area of security. We are aware of the effort of the federal government to ensure that the abducted Chibok girls are released in safety. May I also thank our international partners for their contributions and offering to join the team in combating terrorism in our nation. The common enemy of Nigerians today is insurgency, and I want to sincerely thank everyone, including the non-governmental organizations, the social network users, and the stakeholders who are speaking in one voice for the release of the abducted Chibok girls. Honorable colleagues, this is a great opportunity that we should lean our voice about the abducted girls. I implore you to play aside sentiment and do justice in the cause of this session, which is very, very important. Finally, I enjoin you to promote peace and unity, as this is what we need as a nation. Our decision to appear this way is not that we are mourning for any reason, but it's just a way of expressing how we feel for the abducted Chibok girls. Once again, you are welcome. Thank you. As I said earlier, this is a special sitting, so I'd like to call on Honorable Fahad Umar for his presentation on the state of situation in Borno State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing me. I am by name Honorable Fad Umar Basa, member representing Borno State Federal Constituency in this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, to give an insight on this topic of discussion, the abduction of young school girls and general security challenges facing the nation. Well, we all know that recently, last month precisely, over 200 girls were abducted from a school in Borno State. And from the information we had, some few of them were able to escape despite the challenges faced by them. And that we all know of the state of the parents of those children, how they felt, how they expressed their feelings concerning this abduction. And we also know that the government has put in place strategies in order to ensure the restoration of peace, and those girls are brought back to their respective families. I commend the government for that. But Mr. Speaker, I would like to forward the impact of this abduction of the school girls. I would like to lay down the impact it has on the Child Rights Act of those children. That their rights are being deprived in one or two places, which I would like to forward to this House. One of which is education, which we know is the bedrock of the development of each and every good society. Education is very vital, and the education of those children have been deprived by these insurgents. They are deprived from going to schools. They have fear of going to schools, and as a result, the government of the state has embarked on closure of all the schools in the state, with the exception of only some private schools in the metropolis, which is very detrimental. And Mr. Speaker, another right that these children are being deprived of is their right to participation. These children have been denied the right to participate in their due course. And another one, Mr. Speaker, is their right to survival. These children have been deprived of their right to survival. Nobody knows in which state they are. Nobody knows in which state of mind they are. And another one is their right to protection, Mr. Speaker. These children, we do not know on how their health status is. We do not know, maybe due to the exposure they might have to mosquito bites. We do not know their state of health, which is very, very important, Mr. Speaker. And also, their right to development is being deprived also, Mr. Speaker. These children have been deprived of the right to stay in school, to be developed mentally, psychologically, and socially. But I would like to suggest to this House, on the way forward, the solutions to be taken in order to ensure that such occurrences never happen in any place in this great nation of ours. Mr. Speaker, we all know that religion is one of the basic components of the society. Religion is something that controls each and every one of us. So I would like to suggest to the government of this great nation that the Federal Ministry of Religious Affairs should be established in order to monitor religious activities, because this issue of Boko Haram is as a result of misconception of religious ideologies, which by such establishment, I hope that these activities of the basic religions in Nigeria will be monitored. And then, Mr. Speaker, as fellow Nigerians, we need to understand our differences. I always like to bring this quotation when I speak on such issues. I was reading a book and I came across, it was concerning the greatest speech of the historic black leaders. And I came across the speech of Sir Ahmadu Bello. It came to a point that he was discussing with Obafemi Awolowo. And Obafemi Awolowo said, "Sir, let's forget our differences." Then Sir Ahmadu Bello said, No. We need to understand our differences so as to pave the way forward. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge us to understand our differences and live in peace so as to maintain these differences. Then, another way forward is that the government should ensure that security is maintained in all the schools of the Federation. Then lastly, Mr. Speaker, we know that the population of Nigeria is growing, and so the youth are to be provided with employment. The government has provided employment, but my own discussion here is that the government should expand the scope of job vacancies for these youths. With this, Mr. Speaker, I would like to conclude by saying that we as Nigerians should try and move away. We should try and prevent ourselves from falling into corrupt practices, and that the Nigerian children should know that we should have hope in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Fahad Umar. That was indeed an inspiring presentation. Do we have any other contribution? The floor is open. Honorable Karen Odinenu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Karen Hapok Odinenu, representing FCT. Nelson Mandela said, "To be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to dedicate one's life to enhancing the freedom of others." I'd like to emphasize on this point in relation to what is going on in our country today. The problem we are facing today, that is the abduction of the Chibok girls, is not a problem for the government alone. I believe it's also our individual responsibility. I mean, how can we be free, or how can we claim to be free when our sisters are not free? And so for us to be free, I believe we have to give all we have to make sure we try to let our sisters come out from bondage. Mr. Speaker, I believe in prayer, and I believe in God, and I believe that God answers the prayers of children. And so I do not think it is sane for us to carry guns and machetes and go to the bushes to fight for the freedom of our sisters. But I do believe we can use prayer as a weapon. And so, Mr. Speaker, I suggest that we, the Children Parliament, use this opportunity to offer a candlelight prayer when we get back to our base, a 30-minute candlelight prayer for these children, so that we can pray to God, hoping He would answer our prayers. Thank you.
Oh, do we have a seconder to that? Our Miriam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Honorable Miriam Oluokere, the Deputy Speaker, National Children's Parliament, representing Kwara State. I second the motion that there should be a candlelight prayer in honor of the Chibok girls as moved by Honorable Karen. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Again say no. The ayes have it. Please, honorable colleagues, I wish to say here that the issue of the prayers is very, very important. You can recall that the first Honorable Deputy Speaker of this House was from Borno State. And from 2012 till today, till date, we don't know our whereabouts. We've tried our lines. Even our colleague from the state, he doesn't know where she is presently. We don't know where she is, whether she's alive or whether she's dead or whatever has happened to her. So we should take the issue of this prayer very seriously when we return back to our base, as Honorable Karen had moved. Any other contribution? Honorable Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have all gathered here today as honorable members representing children from the various 36 states of the Federation. And we have not gathered in our usual fashion like we always do every May 27th. This time around, we have gathered with grief in our hearts. We have gathered with sorrow, and that is why we are putting on black mostly. We have this, we share the grief our fellow sisters are experiencing in wherever they are now in the bush by their captors, the Boko Haram members. And that is why we have come today to deliberate on issues concerning them. We know that part of the theme of our today's deliberation concerns uniting Nigeria for peace and uniting it for children. Unite for peace in Nigeria and unite for children. And as we have witnessed for the past few weeks, we have seen that this particular crisis concerning the Chibok girls have really showed that we Nigerians are united. There have been protests by different groups that have crossed ethnic boundaries or religious boundaries. Day to day, week to week, different groups come out and protest. Different churches, different mosques, different people, even the Ifa priests. I saw them on TV. They came out with one voice to say, no, we don't want terrorism in Nigeria. It shows that although these terrorists want to plant a seed of discord and disunity amongst us, but they are making us stronger, because we have come out with one voice and we are saying no to terrorism. And so we as children, we have also come here to add our voice to what is happening. In fact, if you witnessed, you see that the campaign is changing from just bring back our girls to Boko Haram, bring back our girls. Why? This is because we have come together and we have identified our common enemy and we know them by name. They are Boko Haram. You may be looking at me or you may be hearing me now. We are saying to you, Boko Haram, bring back our girls. Because we are the children, we are the future of this nation. And our protection, our survival, our participation, and our development is paramount in this country. Also, as a child representing Anambra State and speaking on behalf of every other children in Nigeria, I wish to make this plea to whoever the sponsors or whoever these tormentors are. Please, when you have aggressions, don't direct them to the children. In fact, don't even direct them to fellow civilians or to people. There are good channels where you direct your aggressions or your challenges. Come out for dialogue. Our government has been ever willing to dialogue.
Please be mindful of time, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government has been ever willing to dialogue with every group that has aggressions to lay before them. So why not come out from your hiding place and put whatever you want on the table and let's see how we can sort this out. Stop throwing bombs and please leave our children out of this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Stanley. Honorable K. Nelson. Please, you have to be very brief and exact, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, Your Excellency, members of the gallery. Good afternoon. My name is Honorable Nelson Ike. I represent Benue Federal Constituency. First of all, I want to appreciate the presidency for their entire effort in bringing a lasting solution to the issue of Boko Haram in Nigeria. And also on behalf of the Benue children that I represent, and by extension for the love of my people, the Nigerian children that I speak for, I want to say a very big thank you to the international community for their support so far since the abduction of our sisters. We are saying thank you. And there is something that is paramount I say at this point. Just like my honorable colleague from Anambra, Honorable Stanley, just said, it is a thank you to every Nigerian that has seen this as not just a northern problem, but a Nigerian problem. And I want to direct this particularly to NGOs and political parties. That if really your political parties manifest to really mean good for Nigeria, then this is the time to demonstrate it. This is not the time to shift blame from one party to the other, from one person to the other, telling us what the government is not doing that they are supposed to be doing. What we want to really hear from you at this time as children and as the future of this country is what can be possibly done to bring a lasting solution to this menace, because it is a menace. And we, the children, are not willing, we are not ready to inherit Nigeria the way it is. If at all nothing can be done, at least we want to inherit that Nigeria that is known for unity, that is known for peace. That is what the Nigerian children want at this point. And this is a passionate plea to Boko Haram, just like my honorable colleague Stanley just said, that if really change is what we desire in this country, then the path of terrorism is a path of cowards. Permit me to say that the best path to take in making corrections or in making changes is dialogue, just like he has said. Look at the issue of Nelson Mandela. Though he didn't come out for dialogue per se, but the path that he took was encouraging. Until today, the world regard him as the greatest humanist of our time for that sacrifice that he made for South Africa and for the future of South Africa. It is really contradicting, Mr. Speaker. Please just give me 30 seconds. Let me point this out. To fight against education when it is obvious that you are educated yourself. If you can write, that means you went to primary or secondary school. You can speak English, that means you have that education. So why are you denying us the right to that education that you have? It is really contradicting. And if that is what you want as Boko Haram, then we don't agree to that. And lastly, we, the Nigerian children, support the issue of dialogue between the federal government and the Boko Haram. If that will bring a lasting solution to Boko Haram and bring our sisters back home safely. But we, the Nigerian children today, say no to their demands that says that our sisters out there will be exchanged with the criminals in the prison yards today. That is what the Nigerian children are saying. That is what they sent us to say, and that is what we are saying, that we will never support the exchange of our sisters for those criminals. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ike Nelson. Fatima, I think that's the last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Fatima, a member representing the Nasarawa State Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, please could you permit me to speak to the insurgents?
Go ahead, please.
Fellow Nigerians, you are kidnapping us. You are killing us. You are killing our joy. You are killing our happiness. But in case you have forgotten, you are once children, and you know how it feels to be with your loved ones, your parents, and especially the mothers. Now you are depriving these children the chance of being with their loved ones, their parents, their mothers. You are depriving them the chance of being with us. Oh, fellow Nigerians, are you doing justice to yourself? Of course not. But I believe that no one was born evil, but you grow up to choose the path of being evil or being good. Now you have chosen to be evil, but I believe you can change. You can change for the better, and this change starts from releasing our children. Please release our children, release our sisters, release our future, release our joy, release our happiness. We are pleading with you, please release our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance.
Thank you very much, Honorable Fatima Aminu. Honorable colleagues, I'd like to say that, like you are aware, we've had the deliberations right from yesterday, and that thing went into the late hours of the night, and we contributed, passionately to the matter on the floor of the House. So I would like to give about, I think, one other person the opportunity to talk, and from there we will move to the resolution. Honorable Solomon. Okay. Honorable Solomon. Okay, about
Honorable Speaker, sir, my honorable members, good day. I am Honorable Prince Solomon Udunweke, representing Imo State Federal Constituency. I'm also the chairman, House Committee on MDGs and Vision 2020 for the National Children's Parliament. First and foremost, I want to commend Mr. President Ebele Goodluck Jonathan for his steadfastness, for his patience, and for the love he has for Nigerian children. Actually, from the look of things, Mr. President would have been pushed to bombard this particular states involved in insurgency, especially that of the Northeast, but because of the love he has for Nigeria as a whole, he's keeping his cool. And with the support of his wife, Mommy Patience, he's really having patience, and I really thank Mr. President for that. Another thing is, a lot has been done to intensify security in Nigeria, but I think some things still need to be done. Now we see sensitization programs about security-related matters. Now what of those children at the grassroots who don't have access to televisions, who don't have access to the internet, who don't have access to radio sets? What effort has been made to actually communicate them? So I'll be urging my fellow Nigerians, especially with the directive of the supervising ministry, the National Orientation Agency, to look into the matter of getting down to those children who don't have access to the internet, who don't have access to radio, for them to know what to do in cases of such insurgency. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Solomon. Yobe State, Honorable Hassan. Honorable Hassan, please give him the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing my presence. I am by name Honorable Hassan Mohamed Jallo, representing Yobe State Federal Constituency. Well, based on the topic on ground, I was indeed deeply shocked and surprised when I got the information of the abduction of the 200 schoolgirls in Borno State. I mean, with the tight security in Borno State, how is it that possible to transport over 200 girls out of a town under state of emergency? The obvious answer to this question is, there must be some moles. There must be moles in our neighborhood, in our security forces, in our government. So to end this insurgency, the government should bring to book anyone caught sponsoring this insurgency. They should be tried and be prosecuted. Finally, to the Nigerian children, I would like us to know that without children, there is no nation. We are the nation. So we have hope. We have hope. We should not lose hope. My honorable colleagues, no nation, no nation, no children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Hassan Jallo. I will call on the clerk of the house, being that we have deliberated extensively on this matter. and we adopted the resolution. I'll call on the clerk of the house to please append his signature.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Colleagues, I will proceed to present this resolution to the First Lady for onward presentation to Mr. President. I'd like to invite the Honorable Deputy Speaker with the clerk to please join me. I rise.